Separated by cosmic cabinets, Brandon and Logan are broadcasting Nintendo stuff live using their telepathic powers. My name is Brandon Miracle. If you look south of me in the video version, you'll see the wonderful and beautiful face, Logan Welliver, my cohort, my partner
I've
in
been
crime.
using beard oil.
I can smell it from here.
Yeah.
You can see that I have not used beard oil today. I'm looking a little scraggy. But how you doing today, Logan?
It's a day in the life of 40-hour week job. So I think it's as good as it could have been today. And I think I'll take that as a win.
A good way to look at it, you know.
Yeah.
Hello to Zippies in the chat. We've been enjoying chatting with you pre-show here. So if you are a Nintendo fiend such as ourselves, or even just a game industry fiend, you will know that just yesterday, Nintendo of America president since 2006, Reggie Fils-Aimé, announced his retirement. He's not going to another company. He is retiring from working forever, presumably. And for those of you who don't know a lot about Reggie, he started at the company as the head of sales and marketing, which is interesting because he's being replaced by Doug Bowser, who for the last 4 years has been the head of sales and marketing. So it seems like they're utilizing that position as kind of the like the stepping stone position. We're going to train you in sales and marketing. We'll see how you perform, and then once we're ready to make the transition, you're the one considered to be president.
I mean, it only makes sense, right? That you would want to put somebody who has knowledge of the business in that position, right? So that's exactly what we're seeing here. Um, Obviously, like they thought he was a good enough choice, and I hope they're right because I like seeing Nintendo succeed, and I hope they continue to succeed.
I think
And
Dream Drop makes a good point here. We already have a little bit of a track record for Doug Bowser just in the Switch's marketing over the last couple years. So we,
right,
we have a precedent for how well he's going to perform. You know, they in Reggie's farewell video, we saw a little bit of Doug Bowser out in the wild interacting with fans, going to launch events. So I think the stepping stones and the building blocks, they're there already.
hmm
And I mentioned this a few times over the last day, but one of the things that people love about Reggie is how much he embraced the community and embraced the meme, embraced the perception that people had of him. And Doug Bowser has already started doing that, because in those short clips that we saw, like I said, we see him interacting with fans. We see him wearing a coat that says Team Bowser on the back. We see that initial image from when he got hired back in 2015 with that "Thank you for the warm welcome" poster, and then like Mario and Luigi plushies tied up in NES controllers in the background.
right,
So I
right,
think as far as a personality, at the very least, we're already in good hands with Doug Bowser.
right. But I mean, certainly personality isn't everything. I mean,
No,
same with Reggie, like being able to perform it through at your job and make sure that you are part of the machine, the cog that enables the company to succeed long term. And not only that, like I would hope that Reggie, in part, laid some of that foundation that Doug Bowser is going to, use as a platform to do his work with. So we'll see what that looks like, especially in these next few years. I mean, especially like what happens post Switch, right?
absolutely.
Depending if Doug Bowser is still there at the time, because you never know how long some of these executives will be around. So
The hope is that we'll
we
keep him
shall
for a
see.
while.
hmm Yeah, I mean, at least, yeah, if he does well, and I don't know, he shouldn't try to be Reggie. That's for sure, certain.
No,
Be yourself, have your own presentation.
I
You'll
feel
have your
like
own
he
side
has set
jokes.
himself apart a little bit already, because he's kind of taking that "oh look, I'm a villain" role. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, comedically, of course, but it's playing off
Right.
well. I mean, how
Right.
perfect is that the next president of Nintendo, his name is Bowser?
Yeah, there's a part of me that believes that that was part of the decision making, not only
Could be.
in his appointment as the president of Nintendo of America, but just his hiring in general. Like, it seems too good. They're like, oh my god, he's like super qualified, and his last name is Bowser.
Doesn't get any
Like,
better than
this
that,
is
right?
yeah. And then maybe part of that was Doug Bowser was like, "Oh my gosh, my last name is Bowser. Like, there's this character in this video game named Bowser, and then when I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna work for Nintendo." I don't know if that's actually like his thought process, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
No, and I wouldn't be either. Um,
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to do with today's discussion is take a look back at Reggie's career, but also take a look back at his career before he was president of Nintendo and before he worked at Nintendo. And we have a great article here from the New York Times where he had a conversation with Bobby Dempsey, and Bobby wrote up his conversation with Reggie, so we can get a little bit of a first person
Mhm.
perspective here. So I am quoting the New York Times just for clarification purposes. Reggie says, I grew up in a lower middle class environment, usually the lone minority among my classmates. My parents, both immigrants from Haiti, had a Romeo and Juliet type of story. My maternal grandfather, a doctor by training, was in the Haitian government. My paternal grandfather was in the opposing military. As young adults, my mother and father came to New York, where their romance was able to flourish. Both of my parents were college educated within the curriculum in Haiti. When they came to the United States, both had to learn English. My mother worked in retail and continues to do so today, working as the lead sales representative in a fine jewelry store. My father became a machinist. As a child, I envisioned a career in the hard sciences. In sixth grade, I was buying college chemistry textbooks. So already we have this great look at Reggie's upbringing, and isn't it kind of incredible where he ended up compared to comparatively where his parents started?
Yeah, I mean, it's always it's good. Social mobility is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
The idea that you can go from rags to riches, to kind of steal that phrase. It's nice to see that, like, people aren't necessarily stuck where they're at, right? And it's good to see examples of that. It's encouraging. It, it makes you believe, and at the very least it's a good feeling.
No, absolutely. I think it's kind of interesting to have this backstory and then to look at Reggie and all the places we've seen him and all the accounts we've heard from other people, especially people who work at Nintendo, and they all have such a high opinion of Reggie as a person. Um, I think like people are so quick to assume that CEOs and presidents of these huge companies and corporations are just inherently like twisted and corrupt. But then you have people like
Mhm.
Reggie who had an obvious like opposite upbringing, and I think that's very clear in his performance over the last what 13 years as president of Nintendo.
Right, right.
So he had a obviously had a few jobs before he was at Nintendo. I'm gonna go down the list of them. He took a job at Procter and Gamble as the company's brand management program or in their program. After that, he took a position as senior director of national marketing at Pizza Hut. In fact, he launched the Bigfoot Pizza and the Big New Yorker. So he's got those two two Pizza Hut items on his record.
I have no frame of reference for that. None at all.
Very least, we can say that about Reggie. He was responsible for pizza.
Yeah.
And you can't be mad at that, right?
I I mean, I could find reasons to get mad about it, but I'm not mad
Wow.
about it. I
You
won't go
took the
into it.
glasses off, and I was ready for the rant. I could
No,
feel it
no,
coming.
not that's it's not an appropriate place to go on that rant.
Okay. After that, he served as the head of marketing for Guinness Imports Corporation in the United States, responsible for all brands. He was also chief marketing officer at Derby Cycle, directing sales and marketing efforts worldwide for 8 brands. Managing director, and he oversaw Raleigh, UK, Derby's British operations. He also joined the Chinese food company Panda, and acting as the senior vice president. This one's probably a little bit more interesting. He joined MTV's VH1 network in 2001 as the senior vice president, and then left 2 years later in 2003. Interesting
Okay.
tidbit. I'm getting this from Wikipedia, by the way. He was
Okay.
responsible for a 30% increase in ratings for the VH1 network by shifting the channel's focus to appeal to younger viewers. Now, how can we compare that to his reign at Nintendo? When he first started as Nintendo's president was right in the initial rush of, Project Revolution, the Nintendo Wii. He was in marketing for a few years before that, so he's responsible for marketing the DS, marketing the Wii, and what was he good at? What did he do? They marketed those consoles to everyone, not
Mhm.
just to gamers, to every person. And he was hugely successful in that, and it's kind of cool to see that he did this for another company just a few years prior.
Right, right.
Uh, he also laid out and implemented the concert's marketing strategy for New York City, which garnered more than $35 million for disaster relief following 9/11. So Reggie has certainly had his hands in all kinds of pots, some charitable and then some, corporate. But right after that is when he joins Nintendo in December 2003 as the executive vice president of sales and marketing. He was responsible for all those activities in the United States, Canada, and Latin America. And then just a few years later, on May 25th, 2006, Reggie Fils-Aimé became the president and chief operating officer of Nintendo America. Do you know who the previous Nintendo America president was?
Nope.
Tatsumi Kimishima. That name ring a bell?
It kind of hit me with it.
He was the president who took over for Iwata after he passed away for a few years.
Okay, so he was president and CEO of Nintendo of America.
Yep.
Okay.
Kimishima was the first president to take over Nintendo of America after the Yamauchi family, after it left the Yamauchi family, because previously the role was handed down to the people within that family.
A little bit of nepotism in there, right?
Well, I mean, it's kind of just ingrained in Japanese culture.
Well, right. No, I understand that. And
Hiroshi Yamauchi is kind of instrumental in being the one who was finally, willing to give that role to somebody he trusted outside of the family.
right.
And that ended up being Tatsumi Kimishima. Yeah, that's super interesting to kind of look back at Reggie's career leading up to Nintendo of America. Seeing how he kind of played right after Tatsumi Kimishima, because previously I didn't know that Kimishima had a hand, as president before his reign after Iwata passed away. That was news to me. Yeah, that's just a little look at Reggie's career before Nintendo, and now we can talk about his career at Nintendo. Zippy says, I need to go cry myself to sleep now. I might come back, but I also might die of pain. Well, don't die.
Oh, no.
Reggie is live and well. He's going to go spend time with his family and friends and see his kids and play more Zelda and maybe actually get good at Super Smash Brothers. I think Reggie's only 57 years old, so he's retiring fairly young. I'm extremely proud of him. He's going to have lots of time to himself, which I think is good.
Yeah, I mean, 57 sounds like a good age to retire. I personally am kind of conflicted on retirement at all. I think people should be able to retire much sooner. But at the same time, like, if you enjoy what you do, why retire at all? Because people like Miyamoto are still hard at work, and he could probably leave at any time.
If Miyamoto wasn't such an auteur, I think he definitely would have been gone by
Yeah.
now.
So, I mean, I think people should be able to and have the means to retire much, much younger. But at the same time, again, if you love what you do, why stop doing it?
Conman in the chat
Uh,
makes a good point. He says he looks so youthful, which is, something you can't say for a lot of presidents in different corporations and of our country. After their term, they usually look a lot
yeah,
more tired and weathered down. But Reggie doesn't look that much older than he did when we first got introduced to him in that wonderful 2004 E3 presentation.
yeah. I mean, there could be a number of reasons for that. It could be the culture surrounding the company and within the company. It could just be less stressful than other executive positions.
Hmm.
He could also just have like great genetics.
That could
I
play
know
into
that
it.
different demographics age differently. So the fact that maybe he's Haitian
Oh yeah, and he's
plays
a
into that.
direct descendant of people who came directly from Haiti.
Yeah. So
So
I mean, I don't know if that's the case. There probably is a myriad of factors that contributes to how good he looks at 57, or how like not old he looks at 57.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean it could speak to a number of factors.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and you kind of made me think about something. And Conman did this too. Why did Reggie decide to leave now? I mean, why at 57? Obviously, he still looks very young. He looks like he's got a lot of life left in him, a lot of energy still to this day. Um, I mean, he brings a certain presence with him when he starts, you know, talking to you in president mode. When he gives that Nintendo PR, there's just an air about him that is very powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, from my perspective, okay, this guy ran one of the most beloved, game companies that has ever existed to this point. Not like video games have been around since forever, but I mean, Nintendo's really old as a company in general. He had a high executive position. I have no doubt in my mind that he's probably got cash like stacked in the bank, right?
I would hope so.
Um, and so, I mean, I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the case. Um, so I mean, he probably saw it as I could retire at any time, and maybe there's other things to do with my time. I had a good run at Nintendo, and I think somebody else is, I think, he was probably at a point, and the company was at a point where he was like, I think it's probably a good time to pass it off, and then I can retire and I can pretty much do whatever I want for the rest of my
He
life
left
you know
Nintendo, or I should say, he's leaving Nintendo at a very good time. Conman saying,
Mhm.
why during the Switch's prime? And I think that's absolutely when you leave the company, when you know it's in a place where it's in good standing, you have someone capable who's ready to take over and can
Mhm.
ride the wave of success while also learning the job. This is a perfect time for Reggie to leave. If he
Yeah.
left when Nintendo was down, this would look a lot worse.
Yeah, I think it's also indicative of his sensibilities as like a leader,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
his leadership skills. Because anybody with, it's like, okay, well, I could keep going on, but who knows the next time we'll get to this point? Who knows the next time we'll feel like we have this much control, and then it's a really easy decision. Also, like, if there is a really, really qualified successor, that is just waiting to take over that position, then if you have, the best interests of the brand and the company in mind, and it's not just the company, it's the employees, part of the company. And so having that success of the company, is so important. That he saw, man, this is probably the best decision I can make. And then also, like, I'm only 57. I mean, on average he's going to live another 18 years.
Hmm.
But with the kind of money he has, I mean, I imagine that he's got great health care. and he'll probably live even longer than that. So he's got maybe 20 plus years to do whatever the heck he wants. And who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that freedom? You know?
Yeah,
So I think it's within his right to say like, yeah, okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm gonna do some interesting things. And now he has more time to spend with his family. Whether I don't know how old his kids are at this point. I
when
imagine they're
Reggie gave the E3 2004 presentation, which was his introduction to the masses, his son was 16 years old.
yeah. So I mean, at this point, like he's got some kids, and they're maybe going off to college and doing some other things. That if he can just say like, well, I mean, I have enough money to pay for their college, and then enough money to do. I mean, he was at Nintendo for 16 years, and then not to mention like all the other executive positions he held before that. Like the man, he's gonna be fine, right? And now he's just okay. I want to do whatever I want to do with my time, and who can blame him? Because anybody else in his position might do the same,
Absolutely.
unless you're just that obsessed with your work. But I also don't anticipate that like executive work is like the most gratifying stuff. It's office, it's numbers, it's labor management, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff, I mean, at least for myself, it's not terribly
Exciting.
it it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life, right?
Hmm.
I mean, even as like an AV supervisor, I've been given kind of a position where I have a little bit more responsibility. There's more things that I have to figure out, but then also um it, it, it's partially addicting because like, okay, I get to help things function better, and that's gratifying.
Right.
But at a certain point, if it functions so well, eh, there's you only have so many ideas, and it's better just okay, let somebody else with other ideas come in and see how they can improve things. um, so again, like I think this just speaks to his leadership skills. I think it speaks to how how some people don't have their heads on straight. Reggie seems like he has his head on straight. He has his priorities relatively straight. I'm not
Hmm.
sure how hard he has worked, because he could be a 40-hour a week executive, but a lot of these executives maybe work more, maybe they work less. But at a certain point, even if you're working 30 hours a week for 30 plus years, like that gets tiring. You want to do something else with your time. And so that all of that allows him, there's just so many factors, and why wouldn't you retire at this point?
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at.
Well, I mean, he left his mark on the company. He's left them in a great position. Um, if I were in Reggie's shoes, like, I wonder if he had considered retirement during the Wii U era.
Yeah.
But we saw the state of Nintendo at that point, and maybe he wasn't comfortable with leaving Nintendo in that state.
Hmm.
But now here we are with the Switch, and he can feel safe knowing that Nintendo's doing all right, and he can finally take a nap.
Yeah. Also, I another factor that might play into all of this is just the state of the industry.
True.
It seems like there's less competition. And it's not like it's been replaced by just one company just having like, oh, we did it, we we conquered the field. But it
No,
seems like a lot of these companies are a little bit more cooperative.
there's a
uh
community or communal feeling to all of it these days.
yeah. So I mean, even with some of these rumors, and I won't get into it necessarily with like Xbox Game Pass, I think that's just good. It's good for the industry. I mean, to see people not fighting, and really looking for people to do their best, and nobody's looking to crush anybody else. Like there's so much room in the industry and in the market, that nobody has to necessarily like step on each other's toes. Like if one company succeeds, then a lot of other companies are going to succeed as well, and
I
that's
think it
that's really
was I
helpful.
think it was someone at Sony. It may have been the COO at Sony. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the two companies, Sony or Microsoft, recently said that you know, the industry wouldn't be the same without Nintendo because of the way they
Mhm.
approach things. And I think that's
Right.
a really valuable way to look at the industry now because like and we can say the same things about Sony and Microsoft because they propel each other forward and we should never forget that. And I know people look at them like they're the same thing, but they're not.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and they all look at each other that way and I kind of love it.
Yeah, it's good to see uh competitors, with the quotes on it.
This is what competition is supposed to be, by the way.
Well, healthy competition, because there's competition, right? And competition can be cancerous and it can eat itself, which many times it does. But when there's a healthy competition, it's all fun. In a sense, everybody wins, because it's all about, like, it's not about crushing your competition so badly that they can't get back up, right? That's just bad sportsmanship, and that should be discouraged.
In
Um,
this industry, it's about trying to do the next cool thing, the next big innovation, and
right.
that's what's driven this industry forward since, the 80s when it all really got started.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great example of uh, at least more so what industry should look like,
Yeah.
and how we should approach that. And it definitely makes us as consumers, it puts us in a better position because we benefit from it,
Hmm.
when all these people aren't just like yelling at each other, and they walk out onto the Game Awards stage and they're like, guys, we're all on the same team. Like, that's really where we're at.
I
We're
remember
all on the
when
same team. Let's stop
I
fighting.
remember when Jeff tweeted that, during rehearsal they had pulled off something never done before and we were all
Mhm.
racking our brains about what that was. And it was getting all three COOs on stage at the same time. And
Yeah.
what an incredible moment in gaming history.
Yeah. So please give us more of this. Let's continue in this direction of cooperation, of healthy competition, and it is undeniable the kind of impact that Reggie Fils-Aimé has had on Nintendo and has had on the industry as a whole.
I think there's like one important thing about Reggie that we didn't even discuss, and for me, that's like, when do you have a president of a corporation step down from his position to then get an unbelievable outpouring of support and love from the fans? When does that happen?
Mhm. Well, I mean, therein lies the kind of, I don't even know what you want to call it. My temptation is call it like an enigma because it just doesn't
An
happen.
anomaly?
But it's not like there's not good reason, right?
Oh, absolutely right.
Um,
I'm not saying that.
Right. So because there's so many times you see these CEOs and they're just businessmen, right? Which is like the worst, right? Especially if you're making a product that seems so personal. And I think this is what Nintendo does really well is like you can't you can't be a business person. I mean, you have to know business, right? You have to be able to run a business.
And Reggie wouldn't
But
have gotten there otherwise.
your primary persona to the public can't be that. You're doing your job, that's your day job. Awesome. Outside of that, what are you? And Reggie, he was a gamer. And he played games. I mean, obviously, he only was able to play so much because he was working.
Yeah.
But when he got the chance, he did. He played games and he wanted to understand. Like he put himself in our position, and man, is that such a valuable asset,
He
right?
he truly understood why fans love Nintendo because he also loved Nintendo. Whether he
Yeah,
did before he got there or if it was something that was learned while he was there doesn't matter.
yeah. So, I mean, I think all in all, like, he wasn't a disingenuous person. We
No.
believed him. And in the same like breath, like, if it ever came out that, like, nah, dude, he like never actually gamed and he like was putting that persona on, that would be devastating to
That
all
would
the
hurt.
people who look up to him,
I would be significantly hurt by that, actually.
Yeah. So I mean, I do believe him. I do believe that he was a gamer. I believe he actually legitimately cared about the industry, and specifically um, gamers, the people who drive the industry.
Hmm.
And I think this is also like the benefit of like an industry that's like it's not necessarily, it's just like a hobby, it's an interest, so it's not like necessary. And so like the
True.
stakes aren't necessarily as high, you're just trying to be like, okay, we got to be a business and we're going to sell some product, but in that we have to be mindful of who we're delivering this to, because it's very very easy to say, wow, that company sucks. Okay, I'm just going to go play on my PC. I'm going to go play on another console. But now we're at a point where it's like, I want all of the consoles. And if there's not anything good on one console, I can just play on this other console.
It's
So it's kind
it's
of just, it's a win-win-win.
it's incredible to me. We talked earlier about Reggie's past careers, and his first job at Nintendo was being, head of sales and marketing. And one of the things he was incredibly successful at was marketing himself without ever
Mhm.
making himself a product,
Right.
which to me is mind blowing. You get all these crazy personalities, and they'll get bobbleheads and action figures and all that kind of stuff. We
Oh
never got
yeah, and
any of
then
that with
sometimes it gets
Reggie.
really cringy. It gets really cringy. For example, the CEO, and oh my gosh, like I my mind screams every time I see a T-Mobile like sponsored post on Facebook or something like that, and you have the CEO. I can't even remember his first name is John, right? But the CEO, he's got the long hair. He like tries to dress a little more hip, but then it's all T-Mobile, and it's all like, look, I'm putting on this persona to sell to you. Like, I'm so cool. And it's just it doesn't work. Like, you people I think people are pretty good at seeing through the BS,
Yeah.
at seeing through the disingenuous, persona that people will put out there. Um, and I'm always skeptical of, people like, even like Phil Spencer. Sometimes I'm like, I don't mind him so much. He doesn't try too hard, and I think that's also
He's not
important. Like
aggressive about it.
because if you're trying too hard, it's probably because you aren't genuine. Like, you're trying to prove something, whereas like, if I'm a gamer, I don't have to prove to you that I'm a gamer, because it's just going to come out anyway. I mean, that's why we do this show. That's
Yeah.
why when I pick up my Nintendo Switch and I get really passionate about Tetris, and that clip that I got of Tetris 99 from the stream the other day, where I was just complaining about the controls. Like, the reason I'm complaining about the controls is because I give a crap. It's like, I want to have the best experience that I can have in this situation. So please heed my calls, because I'm a gamer.
So obviously we've talked a lot about Reggie's character, his exploits as a professional. But let's just kind of go down memory lane, because for us, Reggie isn't just a CEO, or excuse me, a COO. He's just Reggie. What are some of the things that we've loved about Reggie over the last 15 years? And for me, while I didn't see it initially when it originally happened, my introduction to Reggie was actually E3 2007, I want to say,
Mhm.
which was not the infamous Wii Music year. It was the Super Mario Galaxy 2 year, which is a wonderful year at E3, if I remember right. I could be wrong. That might have been 2009. I don't know. Um, but his introduction in 2004, and we're gonna get a little risque here on the Break Room Arcade, when he walked
Oh.
up on stage and he said, "My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass. I'm about taking names, and we're about making games." What a legendary statement! His very first words as a Nintendo employee to the general masses was that. And you know what's
Right.
funny about that? Like, Reggie went down in history after that because they talked about him on forums. Like, they nicknamed him the Reginator after that because people loved it so much. This came a
Right.
year after the 2003 E3, which was a real dud. From what I've been reading, people were
Mhm.
like super lukewarm on Nintendo. Nintendo GameCube was
Yeah,
not doing it.
it's weird to think like 2003, right? How old were we in 2003? We were 9. Like we were
We
babies.
were
Like I don't
babies.
I mean at 9 my concern was, oh man, next year I turn 10 and I'll have double digits in my age. Like that's the kind of thing that was running through my head. I wasn't thinking, oh man, look at these like Nintendo executives
For
and all these
me,
games.
it
Like,
was I was gonna get my Pokemon license because Ash got his at 10. Obviously, that's when I get mine, right?
yeah, boy.
But the thing about what Reggie said at E3 2004, um, is that he's been on record saying that his kind of aggressive attitude and kind of that this is the cool Nintendo, this is a new
Mhm.
Nintendo, that attitude he gave was not his idea. It was other people around him who were encouraging him to do that instead, and he wasn't super into it at first. And then he did it, and it had just an absolutely profound effect on the way people looked at Nintendo.
Well, and then that again, that just speaks to like, okay, he heeded other people's suggestions.
Yeah,
Right? This is
I didn't think
the
about that.
power of cooperation and being open to suggestions. And I mean, we do that here on the channel. Like, I mean, we're constantly like, I do something, and I go, okay, I don't even care if I think it's the best thing ever. I'm gonna run it by Brandon because maybe Brandon will have some critiques and it might make it that much better. And like, you know, some of the thumbnails we did, some of the choices we make with some of the content that we create. And so to see that, to understand that Reggie went out of his way to say, okay, I'll try it. They might know something that I don't know, and that's super important. And it made him like, you know, that much better of an executive, that much better of a presenter. And that's just so valuable, you know. I mean, even now as I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh my god, Reggie, like he's always been a special person to us, right? Even though we've never met him in person.
I was
But
so
as we're talking
close,
about it,
man. I'm going to E3 this year.
yeah, maybe he'll show up as a guest. Maybe that's like, I mean, he has all the time in the world, right? And maybe he still digs games. Like, I want to see all the new games, and I don't have to like actually be there to like do Nintendo stuff.
Like Conman said in the
Um,
chat, we're not done with Reggie. He's probably still going to show his face and go to stuff, but as far as working for the company, he's done.
yeah, yeah, I
Um,
can see it.
but it's kind of incredible how all of this started for Reggie at E3 2004 because he came at a good time. It was the unveiling of the Nintendo DS, which got an incredible response, and it was also the E3 where they ended the presentation by revealing Twilight Princess, the the most famous like E3 reveal in history.
Hmm.
um, but it's also kind of interesting to me because, like, in the years following, Reggie just kind of shaved that persona off, and we got more just actual Reggie.
Hmm.
I don't remember what year it was. It may have been 2007, where he stepped on a Wii balance board and he said, "My body is ready" for the first time.
Yep, yep.
What an incredible moment! That might be the highlight of his career.
It also just goes to show you like you can't force yourself necessarily into the spotlight. I mean, you just kind of have to, and you can't force a meme, right?
No,
Memes are things that other people pick up on and then they run with them, you know. And that's a beautiful thing. So
he was
the
smart
fact
enough to
that this has
embrace it.
happened over and over again, you know, and then my body is ready, like I, I don't even know how many times I've said that phrase, and
There
that's
are
where it
people
stems
who
from.
aren't even gamers or even know where it came from that I hear say that all the time.
Hmm.
It's
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 permeated culture.
it
It
really
is
did.
quite literally the definition of a meme.
Yeah, back when I think the definition of a meme was more accurate to what it was back then. Not so much these days, but yeah,
I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, a meme is just literally like a. I mean, I don't know if I've explained this before. A meme is a measurement of culture,
yeah.
you know. So a meme is an occurrence, and then it usually becomes a meme because people keep talking about it and people keep saying it, you know. So one person, but Reggie says, "My body is ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this Wii balance board stuff." And then all of a sudden he's like, "My body is ready," and then my body is always ready for the podcast. My body is always ready to do something fun. And that's the beauty of it
Reggie
because
understood the
Mhm.
significance of internet culture at a time where I feel like a lot of big business didn't. Um, he embraced the meme. He knew when to throw it out. Like you
Right.
never heard Reggie say it on the regular. He always waited for the right moment to throw out, "And my body is ready." And it was incredibly poignant in his farewell video that they uploaded to Twitter yesterday. Uh, I don't remember the exact quote. I think he said, "And yes, my body is still ready." And he as much of a joke as "My body is ready" is, that had a significant emotional impact on me because there was a connection that we all personally had with Reggie that he recognized and it was mutual for him. And he used it to say his goodbye to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, what a good guy.
Yeah, it it's a good way to end my day about talking about somebody who has just given us so much joy over the last few years. And somebody who has such a an impact on how we live our lives and how we spend our time.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the industry is remembering um all the funny moments and the great personable moments that Reggie had in a similar way that we did with former President Satoru Iwata after he passed away. Obviously, the circumstances here are different, but it kind of feels the same way. We're passing the torch on to somebody new. Um, it was a lot more sudden in the case of Mr. Iwata and more tragic, but we're still looking at these guys fondly for what they did for the company, the kind of personality that they brought to it, the personal connection they had to gamers and fans alike. Um,
Hmm.
that's something that I think Iwata and Reggie both captured mutually at the same time. Um, and it's even funny to me now to thinking about that E3 presentation where they announced Mii's were in Smash Brothers, and we got that fantastic video with Iwata and Reggie doing like a Dragon Ball Z fight. um,
Uh-huh.
and they're like two sides of the same coin. They did the same thing for Nintendo, just in their respective countries.
Right,
So
right.
Reggie holds the same place in my heart that Iwata did. Any standout Reggie moments for you before we move on to the other topics today?
um no, I mean, I guess I'll just wrap it up by saying thank you to Reggie. I hope he's aware of his impact, and I hope he is humbled by the outpour of just everybody talking about it and everybody saying like, okay, this is in a sense it's a loss, but we've gained so much, that it's kind of a moot point. Like,
Yeah.
let the man have the rest of his life. Let him do whatever he wants. Let the man retire. He might be exhausted, from being in the public's eye for so many years, and it's time to just kind of have his life, to himself. So good on you, Reggie. Uh, Thank you for what you've done, and if we ever see you, I was gonna mention one of the comments that Conmed made in the chat goes, I wish I got to meet him, and it made it sound like Reggie's not dead,
He's not
man.
dead.
He's not dead. Uh, anyway, thank you, Reggie.
I'll close out the segment by quoting Reggie in the press release that Nintendo released upon the announcement. He says, "As I look forward to departing in both good health and good humor, this is not game over for me, but instead leveling up to more time with my wife, family, and friends." Congratulations, Reggie, on your tenure at Nintendo and all of your accomplishments before that as well.
Mhm.
Have a good time with your wife and kids and enjoy the rest of your life, man. We love you. That brings us to our Discord server. If you want to get involved with us and talk to us about all the cool Nintendo happenings or music, movies, TV, just anything you guys are interested in, make sure to check out our Discord server, link in the description of the YouTube channel below. And I wrote a channel to plug in there, but I guess I forgot to save it, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend one anyway. Let's recommend the TV channel.
Lots of good TV shows to watch, and I don't think that channel gets enough
I
love.
was
I mean,
thinking
it
that,
does
yeah.
from time to time. Definitely needs more love. I mean, if you guys can see it in my background, I got Bob's Burgers going on. That's one of my I'm going to bed shows, and it's made itself into the current rotation, supplanting Futurama as my sleeping show. Even though I would like to get away from watching TV shows as I go to bed. But if there's anything that I'm going to sleep to, Bob's Burger is quite good. So if you like Bob's Burgers, if you like Futurama, if you like any TV shows at all, let us know in the Discord. You can find a link to the Discord in the description below the YouTube video.
You can go in there and talk to me and Logan about our weekly Riverdale gush, because
I gotta catch up on that.
I haven't watched this last week's episode, so I need to do
Oh,
that.
I haven't. I have like 4 or 5 episodes to catch up on.
Well, you're hitting that line on the CW, man. They only do 5 episodes on their website before they take them off, right?
I'm not concerned about the availability on the CW, but I won't go into that.
We're not gonna touch that. Videos for the week. Nothing else was uploaded this week. We had a very, very healthy and heavy week last week, so we're still kind of recovering from that. At the same time, I've been working on a review of Degrees of Separation. We were graciously offered that by Otis Games and THQ Nordic. I've been working on that. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get codes out to us until launch day. So that's why I'm publicly saying that's what we're working on right now.
Right.
I've got that in the works. Logan, you're going to be doing a review for Tetris 99.
Yeah, I got some thoughts, so you'll hear those.
We have a couple more videos, maybe about those demos that released after the Nintendo Direct, and then we have one more review for a game that I actually can't talk about. So exciting stuff, right?
It's exciting to like have more points of interest to create, right? Because obviously, like we've been able to do reviews before, but now we're getting to a point where we can get review codes, and that's weird.
It's super weird.
It is weird. So
You mean
I mean,
we have this game that isn't out yet, and we have to talk about it?
right. So I mean, we're kind of where we wanted to be in a lot of ways. So it's a good place to be.
Absolutely. That's going to take us to the general Nintendo news for the week in this Nintendo Stuff podcast. Thanks for sticking with us this long. If you're still here, why don't you tickle that subscribe button before we move on? Something to think about. So this has been an unbelievable week of not actual news, Logan. Almost every single story in my post here are rumors and leaks.
I feel like that's kind of how it goes. Like after like a direct, it's like you get this big info dump, and then like maybe there's a few other things that come out. Like here, we're going to talk about this a little bit, but give it 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and everything's like, yeah, there's nothing to talk about because we already talked about everything.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, this rumor was initially propagated by Direct Feed Games on YouTube and Twitter. You can go check him out. That Xbox Game Pass and xCloud will be coming to Nintendo Switch, including games like Ori and the Blind Forest. And days later, this rumor has evolved from other people who have been claiming things that they know. We're hearing about Cuphead, possibly more than 100 Xbox games coming via the Game Pass. The possibility that the game that Nintendo is reviving that was teased by Imran Khan, the senior editor over at Game Informer, is Scalebound, the canceled Xbox game. Holy cow, for one thing. Though if you don't recall, that game, from what I understand, started as a Wii title. Things are kind of roundabout, huh?
Yeah, right.
And let's see, there's a possibility of other games like Halo, Forza, and Gears coming to Switch as well. Holy cannoli, what in the world is going on?
I I'm not surprised. Okay, so
How
so
can you
let's
say that?
let's because I'm just not because
Explain.
this is the trajectory I anticipated from Microsoft.
You did.
No, I have not like I've talked about it, but no, Microsoft has been moving in a direction in which they were looking to expand Xbox uh, without necessarily having to sell more hardware. This is genius. This makes so much
Oh,
sense,
yeah,
right?
like, I should
So for the
clarify, I'm
future
very much in
of
favor of all of this.
yeah, for the future and because I mean a lot of the times like you're not selling an Xbox for a profit, you know? Or if you are, like it's not that much. It's easier just to like, oh, we're going to sell digital games or we're going to sell services, where we're not producing physical goods. So I mean, all of the cost is literally in the development of the software, and the profit margins are going to be much larger. So the fact that the idea that they would be like, do you think we could get Xbox Game Pass on Switch? And they're like, that's more money. Yeah, let's try that. It's a pretty pro consumer. I mean, I've been thinking about like with all the Microsoft's been doing, I'm like, oh, kind of thinking about getting an Xbox. At some point, I don't have the money for it, not top priority. But maybe that's not the thing. Maybe they don't want to sell me an Xbox. They want to sell me Xbox.
They want to
You
sell
know,
you Xbox with the option of having the premier experience on Xbox. I think that's the
right?
model here.
So I mean, you see what Xbox was doing. Like a lot of the Xbox exclusives aren't necessarily exclusive to Xbox because they're also on PC. You
Windows
have to get
10.
on the Windows 10 store,
Right.
um, but they're on PC. So I mean, this is just so unsurprising to me.
It's just so strange, like, in all these years that Xbox has been part of the current generation hardware developers for the video game
Mhm.
industry, to suddenly have just like this incredible partnership with a competitor, to have their games, their service running on a competitor's platform. I think that takes a lot of trust. It's definitely like a very progressive move in the industry, something that's quite frankly unparalleled as of right now. The last time something
Mhm.
like this happened is when Sega left the hardware industry and just became a third party video game developer.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that like some of these companies are realizing that um, they need to draw back on the competition because it tends to be more profitable to everyone if you just kind of play it nice, and because you're not just what you're not doing is that you're not going to keep people from buying the things that they want to buy, you know? So, but what you can do is you can get into the good graces and the good favor of people who are so just dedicated to one platform, and then that's the opening to actually sell something as opposed to screw Nintendo, like buy an Xbox instead. Like it's hostile, and games are really personal, and so people take that personally, and so you can't sell an Xbox that way to a Nintendo fanboy. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But because of what they do, they get me going, maybe I should buy an Xbox, And then even like, the Xbox One X, it's like, okay, that's 4K gaming natively.
That appeals to
Um,
me.
yeah. And so if I had a 4K TV, that would be like, oh, amazing. Good. I'm not that hungry for 4K right now. But the point stands.
I think this is an incredible move. If any of this is true, I'm going to say this once again. This is all a rumor. None of this is verified. None of this is confirmed. This is all conjecture.
Hmm.
And before I go on about my thoughts and feelings, in fact, I might not have much more to say on that. But what I will say is, where is any of this coming from? This started with direct feed games, and I don't know the guy behind direct feed games. This is so what I have to say means nothing like to my feelings to him. I'm sure he's great. Um, but like I don't who are his sources? And how come after he broke this story did everybody else jump on it without questioning it? It's boggling my mind how this is unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, either somebody knows something that we don't, or it's all false, and this is literally just kind of how it. If it's not happening, it's pretty clear that it should happen,
Like
right?
a nudge.
Um, well, okay, it's just like I mean, it's like literally anything, you know? Like you don't necessarily know if something's a good idea or favorable idea until it gets out there, right? And I mean, this is how the world has worked forever. Ideas they spread, and some people pick them up, and then people get passionate about them.
And this is the screen
Uh,
test.
so okay, so like take the entire demographic of anybody who plays games and you tell them if you have a Nintendo Switch, Xbox is bringing a bunch of their first party titles. Also, a streaming service. So, I mean, your games are going to look fine if you're just connected to the internet. You have a sufficient bandwidth. Who's not in favor of that? That's like one of the most pro consumer things I've
I
heard
think
to date.
about the possibility of getting to play Halo Infinite at launch on my Switch, and that's an incredibly enticing thing to me. Um, I don't see how you could be upset at this.
Yeah, no, I mean, even going so far, even going so far as to say, ideally, the pinnacle of the industry where it if it came to this, this is where it needs to head, and this is where I think it should head. You know, I don't know if it'll ever get there. It depends on, you know, there's a whole bunch of factors you have to consider about the market and just the world in general and how we decide how to operate. But like ultimately, what the gaming industry should look like, and I'd be hard pressed for anybody to disagree with me. And there's a discussion to be had, right, about that if you do disagree. Um, that hardware producers would produce hardware as needed, but the hardware you are choosing is not based on exclusive titles. There are no exclusive titles. All titles are available on any platform they could say. I mean, it's also like we're getting to a point where like all of them are kind of based on the same hardware, so it's not really a hard port. It's just a matter of like, okay, can we actually run this game on this hardware? And then with like the idea behind cloud gaming, that kind of just goes out the window too, because you're just literally you have a device and you're streaming to it. Um, I don't know how prevalent that'll be in the future. I hope it's more prevalent to a degree. Um, but ultimately, like, I want to be able to buy one device, any device. Maybe it's something that I plug into my TV. You know, maybe all of it's going to plug into the TV because I want to play on my TV. But maybe it's also portable, like a Switch, or maybe it's like more traditional console. But it's all about how I want to play and how much I want to spend on that. And then the idea that I don't have to have multiple consoles to play all the games. I just need the one thing. Like that's pro consumer. That's like the pinnacle of gamers just getting what they want. And that's where the industry needs to head
I
largely. And
I
that's where I see it heading.
I think these companies are finally coming to the realization that at this point, in this day and age, you know, exclusivity and different platforms is actively like harming your own sales.
I mean, in a sense, a competition is harming it. You know, the fact that these people would compete when they're like, no, 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 dude, if we just like cooperated, like things would be better for everyone. Like one, like again, it costs money to make hardware, and a lot of the times we sell that at a loss. That is not profitable. Let's get rid of that. You know,
Yeah,
like it's just it's not necessary. Uh, there's still possibility for experimentation. Like you can still produce hardware. You can, you know, have a console that the the controllers come on and off the actual console. You can have just better controllers. You can have a headset that you get into. Like, you can still experiment. There will still be a lot of that. Hey, let's do something cool, and try to inspire other people by doing that, and make something that like we would want. And so as it goes on, like all of these companies, they're contributing, to this ecosystem, to this industry, and it benefits all of us, and that's great. And ultimately, it's 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 a result of the competition fundamentally changing.
Yeah,
If there is competition, what competition there is, it's all about like, I'm going to do better than you, but I also hope that you do better than me, because it's a win-win for all of us. There's not a losing situation, and that's the best
it's
situation to
almost like
be
we're
in.
seeing the opposite thing happen on PC right now with all these game clients popping up, with like the Epic Games Store. And at first I was like really in favor of that, and then suddenly we had a big, you know, highly anticipated game go exclusive.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's pretty anti-consumer. I like some of the things that might come out of it, in the sense that, like, the Epic Games Store and the Discord store, they are offering a larger cut than like Steam, which has had a monopoly on the digital games market, right? Uh, but outside of that, I hate everything else about it. The fact that
yeah,
I have to have all these launchers, the fact that I have to have Origin on my computer. I don't want Origin on my computer, but I want to play Apex Legends.
same.
Um,
At
so
at least in this case, like we're not paying for the clients.
right,
Because in the
right.
hardware business, we're paying for the consoles.
Hmm.
So obviously it's a much bigger step. For us on PC, it's just okay, I'm gonna go download Origins so I can play Apex Legends. It's not
Hmm.
as bad, but it's still kind of interesting to see these two industries kind of go in opposite directions at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, I
So
don't remember
I
what the
mean,
exclusive game was, unfortunately. Uh, Logan, I don't know if you do
wait, exclusive game for what?
for the Epic Games Store. It was recent as of like a month ago that I saw that happen.
Well, I mean, oh, was it Metro
I
Exodus?
think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it, because they were like, "Oh yeah, we're not going to sell this on Steam anymore," and I'm like, "Not a good move. Not a good move. That is very very anti-consumer, and I'm not even like a person who is necessarily even going to go buy Metro Exodus, but I was liking what I was seeing. It was pretty. I like the open world aspect. I've always wanted to go play the Metro games, especially knowing that they're based on books. At least I think they are. And that's really fascinating to me.
Metro Exodus
Uh,
was like the least anticipated game coming out this month and ended up being the
yeah,
best reviewed.
yeah. So what will probably, if I ever play that game, I'll just wait until it comes on the Steam store, because I'm pretty sure it's just a timed exclusive as well.
Right. But going back to Nintendo and Microsoft, I don't know if we talked about this at all last week. Did we talk about Xbox Live coming to Switch? We don't need to talk about it much now that we've kind of covered the rest, but I feel like that was kind of the kicking off point for the rest of this.
Oh yeah, I mean they brought Minecraft, and they're like, well, if we're gonna have like the cross play, we have to have a system that works across consoles and PC. And so you got Xbox Live, that's the common factor. And so like, well, it's got to be on Switch, to at least to be able to play Minecraft across consoles. Um,
I wonder like where the conversation began between both companies. Was it Has it started as far back as porting Minecraft to the Wii U and 3DS?
I
That
mean,
seemed to kind
maybe.
of
I think maybe that was a big like moment for Microsoft, as they were like, well, we bought this IP. We bought the company technically, which the IP came with, but we bought the IP, right? They didn't buy Mojang to buy Mojang. They bought Mojang
by
to get
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
And it launched
Um,
with Super Mario content on the Nintendo version of the game, which
mhm.
is a
Yeah, no, I
significant
mean,
thing.
But it's also not that difficult to do.
It's not difficult to do, but it's difficult to do from a licensing perspective. Like
I
the
mean, except for the
conversations
fact that
that
like, hey, we want to put exclusive content in this version of the game on your console. That's a no-brainer.
right, but
Nintendo's
who
like,
said
yeah,
that?
do that.
I'm curious, like, who started that conversation? Did Nintendo say that to Microsoft, or did Microsoft say that to Nintendo?
Anybody with a brain, anybody with a
I
brain who could
agree. I'm just
sit back
curious.
and think about it for a second, like was like, this is guys, no, everybody wins in this situation. So
Just it's just it's a question that is going to be in my mind for a while until someone over there says something. At some point, I feel like we're going to hear how this all started, assuming
right.
any of it's true. Um, but with that, that's kind of the biggest story of the week. We kind of covered various stories just inherently throughout that. But we
Yeah.
do have more leaks and rumors to talk about. This one being a data mine for Joker and Smash Ultimate. We may have found out what his stage will be based on, which appears to be a stage that everyone wanted it to be, which is Mementos, which is based on one of the palaces in the game.
Yeah, of course. Like that's exactly the stage that I wanted it to be.
Definitely the one that Logan Welliver, Persona 5 expert, wanted in
Yeah,
Super Smash
man, I've
Bros.
put like so many hours. I think I've totaled like a total like 0 hours in Persona 5. Actually, let's not even get into the fact that like how many hours I've put into the Persona series altogether is probably somewhere around 0 hours. Like it's incredible.
Well, luckily, you might get your chance soon to play Persona 5 on Switch because Persona 5 is coming with a ton of announcements sometime in March. And that's coming up real soon. And
Yeah.
another rumor we heard, let me see if I can dig it up. Well, actually, I can't because of the nature of the way this podcast is structured. But there was a rumor that Joker might come with a female alternative in Super Smash Bros., and that a female alternative will be introduced in the eventual Persona 5 R, which we presume is coming to Switch, which would be announced next
Okay.
month, which is why we haven't seen gameplay yet.
Yeah. I man, I'm it seems like a foregone conclusion that Persona 5 is coming to Switch. And I think one of the big factors in that is just because of like the type of game that it is and how popular the Switch is in Japan. Um, I don't I don't think it's outsold the PS4 quite yet, but it
No,
will soon.
it's encroaching it, yeah.
It's gonna happen pretty soon. And so like, oh, we already sold it on the PS4 and PS3. All right, let's put it on the Switch. And then obviously, like, it was just a critical darling and people talked about it all the time, and then it's coming to Switch. Ooh boy, like that's an opportunity right there.
I own the game on PS3, and honestly, I just don't want to play it on my PS3. So if Persona 5 comes to Switch, that's a day one buy for me, and I cannot wait to go and to play that absolutely wonderful game.
Yeah, that's where I'd like to play it.
Knowing that it's like a 100 plus hour RPG also plays into that a little bit. Rather play that in a comfortable way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, we know Joker's coming before the end of April, so it won't be long before we see that. But it's just kind of exciting to kind of get a little bit of a peer into what they're planning with Joker and his stage, and possibly the Jane counterpart to Joker, if that
Right,
ends up
right.
being true. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
More data mines. Wow, what a week! We have data mine that reveals new modes for Tetris 99 on Nintendo Switch. I don't know if we had a chance to talk about this last week.
This makes sense. We got Tetris 99 just out of the blue. And I mean, you don't really need a ton to make a good Tetris game. You just kind of just need the Tetris gameplay. So I think it's interesting that they just launched with just the battle royale mode. Probably just wanted to flood that mode with players and get people really, familiar with it. But we're also getting at the point where some of these better Tetris players are getting online and they're just creaming everybody.
I saw one
Um,
guy who had a win rate of like 1 in 3, and he had played over 200 matches.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are people who are even more extreme. Like there are Tetris grandmasters who will be streaming on Twitch, and they will just first, 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 first,
It's
first,
crazy to
like
me.
even more than like 3 to 1,
That's like a
right?
bigger skill gap than you see in these like battle royale shooters.
Oh, because Tetris is so old.
Yeah.
Like we have it, they have it down. Like the amount of T spins I watch in some of these, like, um, you know, like I feel so much smarter as a Tetris player watching some of these people play, and so I look forward, like the alleged modes that'll be coming are team battle, two giant teams clash, which is a really exciting prospect,
Yeah.
a com battle, which is the same thing except you're playing which is, Tetris 99 except without actual players, just bots, and then classic marathon. Like, man, if you want to encourage people to get better at Tetris, you have to offer different, like, uh experiences and different atmospheres for that. So just having classic marathon and just practicing your Tetris skills, I think that will elevate the level of
My
play
question about
overall.
marathon is, do you play that with other people, or are you just all kind of doing it score attack at the same time and comparing, or will that be a solo?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Because it would inherently be less competitive, but there could still be a competitive aspect to it.
Yeah, no, I think the idea that like you would compete for the scores is really great, because I mean that's kind of how, like, if you watch classic Tetris on like the NES, doing like the 1v1s, that's how it is. Like you're not sending lines,
You're just
over to
competing for
each other.
points.
You're competing for points. So you're doing it, fairly quickly. Though you don't have to go as quick, just because it Tetris doesn't work like that. It's
Yeah.
all about getting those Tetrises and getting those back to backs and getting, what other score modifiers you can get depending on the actual, Tetris game that you're playing. But that one would reward more traditional play,
Hmm.
whereas like Tetris 99, like you can't necessarily play all that traditionally. Like, I mean, you can because that's just good fundamentals.
I kind
But
of witnessed
ultimately,
that
there's other
watching your
things to
stream back.
experience.
You're like, you kept like falling into this trap where you were just playing Tetris.
Mhm.
But Tetris 99 is obviously a different beast. Like you still play
Yeah,
Tetris, but the goal is different.
it rewards playing quickly, and then having multiple avenues of, it's not so important just to get
I
Tetrises,
kind of witnessed the same thing happen back when we got the very first Splatoon global test fire, where people were playing Splatoon like a standard shooter and not playing Splatoon like Splatoon. And
Mhm.
the skill gap was incredibly noticeable because people were just in the wrong mindset.
Yeah, like it's a different if it's a different goal. So it requires a different reaction, a different play style. And so Tetris 99, I like the idea that there's going to be a marathon mode, right? If this is
Me
true,
too.
and I think this is true, because it will reward just a more classical uh, style of Tetris. And I think, again, I think it'll elevate the level of play within the main mode.
You know what I want to see? And
What?
since it's already 99 players, so I can see it happening. If they do like a 3-person squad system,
Mhm.
kind of like Apex Legends, but you have
Right.
33 squads of 3. And maybe you change the way that garbage and badges work a little bit to accommodate that better.
Mhm.
Or maybe, like, if a person on your squad gets a Tetris, maybe that eliminates some of the garbage from one of your teammates. Um,
Right, right.
but something like that, I think, would be another cool way, especially to get friends connected in Tetris 99, because as it is right now, it's a very, well, how would I say that? Segregated experience in that regard.
Yeah, it would certainly, again, change and further move the gameplay away from kind of how you would traditionally play Tetris, and therefore just giving a different experience with the same kind of gameplay,
I
you
just had
know?
another idea. Like, you know
Oh
how you
god.
can hold pieces and then bring it back
Mhm.
out and trade? Like, what if there was like
Right.
a communal pool that you could pull from with your squad mates?
Oh, you could, like, maybe, like, toss a piece. Like, oh, you need a line piece. Okay, well I'm holding a line piece, so I'm gonna
Throw it to you.
hit ZL and it's gonna pass it to you. Or maybe it'll switch. I'll take your hold and you take my hold.
That could be cool. Oh,
So I think some more cooperative gameplay would be fantastic.
and as long as we always say, thanks for hiring us, Nintendo. We know we're incredibly well versed game designers. I'll expect my check in the mail by tomorrow. Uh,
I can't wait. I need it.
but yeah, there's some exciting stuff coming to Tetris 99. A lot of cool stuff for being a free game too.
Mhm.
And we have more rumors. This time is that Nintendo might be working on a Labo VR kit for Nintendo Switch. We kind of saw this design early on in the Switch's kind of the life cycle, where we have this head-mounted display where you put the Switch into the display, and then it kind of divides your vision in half, kind of like Google Cardboard. Same principle, and then it splits the screen
Mhm.
stereoscopically. Uh, so it's the rumor that that's how Nintendo will be handling their VR, at least in the interim. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not really on board with that.
I see it. Um,
On board?
no, I see it as a tech demo. I see it as a mini game within a Labo kit
a
that maybe
less
gives you some extra
expensive,
experiences.
a less
But
expensive should we do VR kind of thing.
yeah, kind of gauging interest, but I don't think they'll do much with it. I don't think this is like I think it's misleading to be like, oh, this is the Nintendo headset. No, this is just them experimenting with virtual reality, and they might have some fun experiences that they're able to make, but they're going to be primitive, and you're not going to want to play them for hours on end because that's just not what the Switch was designed for necessarily. It was like more of an afterthought. So I mean,
Yeah,
I saw people like, oh, Nintendo Switch VR. No, don't hype it up because it's not going to be that. It's just not.
no, and that's kind of why I wasn't on board with it. Because if this ends up being like their full VR initiative, it's just not a very effective means of VR. We're working with a
No,
720p screen, and then you're splitting that down the middle, and you're just putting a piece of cardboard between you and the Switch. There's so much more they could do with it.
yeah, VR is 2024, 2025 from Nintendo. That's where VR is at Nintendo
That's like Switch
because
2.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like Nintendo's not going to jump into VR right now. It's just not. Like even with where VR is at and it's great. Like I love playing Beat Saber. I love like the Vive as is. But like you still have the screen door effect. You have this heavy headset. It's still tethered to a
even
computer.
on the Vive Pro model.
Yeah, I mean, so there's still just a lot of things that like Nintendo like it's a lot of effort to do VR right now. It really is. I think it's well worth it depending on what kind of person you are and what kind of games you like to play.
Nintendo is
I
known
think
for taking risks. Like we shouldn't
yeah,
ignore that.
but also like they're in a position where they're not going to make a product unless it has a chance of mainstream success. They're just not going to do it,
Right.
right? Especially when they could spend their energy and their time and their money developing a Switch, which is going to sell like hotcakes, you know. So they're considering it. Of course, they're experimenting with it. Of course, they're having some fun in the back. I imagine that Nintendo's got some vibes back there, and they're just having
Yeah.
some fun with design,
No,
and then
they've definitely
also
thought about this.
yeah. So I think there will eventually be a Nintendo headset, but like guys, it's not until you or I want to say it's not until we have kids,
Well, I mean,
but I'm not
they
planning on having kids anytime soon.
doesn't wasn't X does Xbox have a headset right now?
Windows there are Windows mixed reality headsets,
but not like
and
a primary
they're
full VR headset.
yeah. So I mean, they don't produce the hardware. They produce kind of like the tech and the software, and then found like other hardware producers to produce the headsets. So
Maybe
they kind of like,
whatever
whatever.
Microsoft and Xbox's eventual console-ready VR solution is will also make its way over to Nintendo.
I mean, maybe
Assuming all of this
Nintendo is
stuff
just
works
like, hey,
out.
we'll just use that instead. Just rebrand it a little bit, but it'll be the same thing.
Yeah. I do have a request. If they do a Labo VR type experimentation thing, I want the game that it's tied to, if there's only one, to be a sequel to the excellent Metroid mode from Nintendo Land.
Oh, yeah. A sequel to that?
A sequel to that, yeah, in first
What would that
person.
look like? Oh,
Uh,
in first person.
more cooperative levels, more ship flying. Just expand Samus's moveset.
Stamouses?
Did I say that? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
At least
just
that's what I heard.
expand her moveset.
Going crazy.
Maybe more full levels where you're actually like traversing a land instead of being in kind of an arena setting. That'd be kind of
Right.
cool. I have really great memories of playing that with you when we were in college. Because I think that mode in Nintendo Land is actually pretty underrated. I think
Oh,
Nintendo
absolutely. I
Land is
think
underrated.
Nintendo Land is underrated. It really is. There was a lot of good experiences and a lot of hours of fun to be had
We had a
as a
room of
collective.
people with Mario Chase projected on like a 90-inch screen.
Mario Chase is a
It's
blast.
a
I
hoot.
kind of there's a part of me that wants Nintendo Land.
Too.
Yeah, I want to see I want to have those experiences. I mean, maybe it requires a second Switch. Um,
They
maybe
already did
that's
that with
a
like Super Mario Party, the two Switch kind of idea.
yeah, I at the very but I mean that's the thing is like Nintendo Land, all those games revolved around the asymmetrical gameplay. And so like that's what I want because I like that.
We
I
have
like
8-player local play with like local portable Switches, so it's certainly not out of the question.
right. Like it's certainly a possibility, but it's just not like a foregone conclusion
What
in
they would have
terms
to
of like
do is either make the games free or make it so that one person buys the game and then the other people who want to play go to the eShop and download a free like client.
yes. Yes, absolutely. That it would have to work that way if you would want to be able to sell it.
Yeah. Well, actually, now I think about it, they already did that with one of the Namco like anniversary packaged game things that's on Switch. There was a version of Pac-Man Versus from the GameCube on it. Uh, if one person bought it, everybody else could go to the eShop and download the little Pac-Man Versus client, so you could play the way it was intended.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're already doing that. So good job. So that's the last first-party Nintendo news story, and keep in mind, nothing we talked about was actually news except for Reggie leaving. Wow,
Well, it's news,
it's
but it's not all
news.
like, is this real or not? We don't know.
In some actual news, we have an unfortunate delay from Yacht Club Games, and that is that the final update to Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, the King of Cards campaign, has been delayed, along with the 3-pack amiibo set, which I thought was out ages ago, but it's still not here.
Yeah. I have such a like I feel I see Amiibo and it makes me feel bad. Like it makes me feel a little bit like why is this still happening? I mean, other than the fact that like
It's a collector's item. That's it. All it is these days.
yeah, I mean, it looks good. It looks good. And it's got the, added NFC stuff like you can add into games, but like the actual value of it, is like
Hang on to those amiibo, those Animal Crossing amiibo. I guarantee
oh
you,
for
you might get some good stuff in the new game.
oh no, I mean, I'm not getting rid of them. I like even if I never actually put this or use it as an NFC chip, like I bought these knowing that I might never use them.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mostly because I like figurines, and these are really good figurines, and I like Animal Crossing a whole lot, and I'm glad I have KK. I'm glad I have Tom Nook down there. Got some other characters. I'd love an Isabel. Um, I mean, I don't know if I'll buy like even any more outside of just Animal Crossing amiibo, you know?
Right. I mean, I like buying amiibo for characters that I have like really big attachment to that are very
Right.
in low supply of like
Oh yeah.
collectibles.
Some of those Link ones are really nice.
Oh yeah, I still want the Majora's Mask Young Link amiibo because I
Mm,
adore Young Link, and I don't have any Young Link anything.
right.
Uh, so I feel bad for Yacht Club Games because obviously it's never easy for a developer to announce a delay for something so highly anticipated.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel bad for fans who were anticipating it to come out on April 9th. And not only did they say it's delayed, they said for several months and then did not give a release window.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they've been working on Shovel Knight ever since Shovel Knight. I think they announced development on their next project, didn't they? So they're kind of doing it at the
Uh,
same time right now.
yeah, they kind of milked a Shovel Knight for all it's worth, and now they're like, okay, I
I
guess
mean,
it's
that
time to move
said,
on.
everything they've released up till now has been of top quality.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's good. It's good stuff, and obviously, if you're trying to monetize on it, it was good business plan. But you can't do it forever, you know. So the fact that they'd be moving on isn't surprising to me.
This amiibo conversation reminded me that I have actually acquired some new amiibo released recently. Uh,
Oh,
I
okay.
got my hands on an old Bowser Super Smash Brothers edition amiibo.
Hmm.
One that I really wanted, never ended up getting because I don't have any Bowser. Well, I do have a Bowser figure now, but before then I didn't. So I'm glad to have this in my collection. But also Santi in the chat reminded me that I got this guy.
I can't see it.
It's Ridley.
It's Ridley. Ah, very nice. Very nice.
I added 2 kings to my collection.
There you go.
So yeah, so sorry to hear about that with the Yacht Club games, but hopefully the delay does not last super long. Elsewhere in third-party news, Ace Attorney Trilogy's release date will be announced next week for Nintendo Switch. If you have not played the Ace Attorney series, you must buy this package,
I've
please.
played a good chunk of the first game via an emulator. It I couldn't do it because emulating DS games it just kind of
It's a
loses the
pain.
magic. But the actual gameplay, the visual novel style. Actually, did I finish the first one? I might have finished it. Regardless, I liked it. So the fact that this might be announced next week, I'm a happy camper. Like, give me Ace Attorney.
This is an unbelievably wonderful series that I think needs some more exposure than it has. If you're not like super into visual novels, like this is a really good game for people who don't like visual novels.
Yeah, because it's not just like, oh, I'm making choices and having conversations, it's like you're actively like, okay, I gotta find some clues, I gotta do some investigation. And some of the like solutions, especially like in the courtroom, are just really zany. And even some of the missteps are like, oh, no, that didn't work. So it's always fun to like try to figure it out and then do all this other stuff. And
For me, there's nothing quite like the rush I get for actually like figuring out something in the courtroom and then being able to present the correct evidence or press on the right piece of testimony and with 100% confidence know I'm going to propel the case forward. It feels
uh-huh.
so good to get something right.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, please try this out. I think it will launch at like $20 or $30, and honestly, I would be willing to pay for like $50 for this because
I mean, it's 3 games.
three full
That's
games
Yeah.
and not
If it
short.
launches at 20, that's definitely a day one buy for log. Granted, I have $20, but man, I don't blink when it's $20, especially for 3 games that I know I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah. Hopefully we get the rest of the Ace Attorney series. Ace Attorney 4 is currently available on DS, 3DS, and iOS. But I would like to get Ace Attorney 4 here on Switch. And then Ace Attorneys 5 and 6 are only available on 3DS. They have never been re-released before. So I would like to get those on Switch as well.
So maybe if this trilogy does well,
Yeah,
we'll get some more.
we might get Ace Attorney 7, please. Or we'll get the Great Ace Attorney, the Japanese only one that takes place in like feudal Japan. Please,
Oh,
I want that real bad.
that sounds zany. Sounds like off
Yeah,
the wall.
they
But that's what I like from games, man. Just like do some experimentation. Throw us where we've never been before.
yeah, something the Ace Attorney series does really well. And then in addition to that, I just brought this up because I've actually been playing this game a little bit. Skullgirls Second Encore is coming to Switch this spring.
Okay.
In
Okay. I've played some Skullgirls. I'm not very good at it.
That's okay.
It's very much 2D fighter, and I just like my brain doesn't connect.
There's a very nice physical edition coming to Switch for $49.99, which will have a cartridge, all the DLC available on it, a Switch controller skin, and an original soundtrack from composer Michiru Yamane on a never-before-released 12-inch vinyl record. That's kind of cool.
Vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a pretty sweet package for fans of Skullgirls, I think. For me, I'll probably opt to get the game digitally, because, I'm not... As of now, I can't say I'm a fan of Skullgirls, but I'm interested enough to buy the game when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been playing the mobile version, which is available for free. And I have to say, it's a pretty competent port of the game. Now, obviously, the way the game is structured, I think, is fairly different from console. But the touch controls for fighting is super intuitive. I was really impressed when I started playing it.
Okay, now that we've started talking about Skullgirls, Dream Drop in the chat has started like spamming.
I think
the
we
chat.
triggered him.
Yeah, so I think this is where the conversation ends. We don't want to feed that too much.
But yeah, we gotta temper those emotions,
But if you're a fan of Skullgirls, there's also room in the Discord to discuss that, especially with Dream Drop. Because he'll talk your ear off about it.
Oh, that emote he just posted.
Yeah.
If you want to be part of the conversation that we have during these podcasts, make sure to show up live, because we do these live on YouTube every Friday, traditionally at 7 p.m. Central. Today we did it at 9 p.m. Central to accommodate Logan's schedule. But always on Friday nights. Some very, very infrequently we will do these on Saturday morning. But you can always guarantee there will at least be an episode of Nintendo stuff that you can come and chat with us during the show, and we might read your comments on stream and use it to contribute to the conversation. And that's honestly one of my favorite things about doing this show, that we get to involve you guys in the conversation, and I think it just elevates the whole experience for everyone.
Yeah.
With all that in mind, you can also keep up the conversation with us in the Discord server, like Logan said. There's a link to that in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. In addition to that, if you're new here and you like what you listened to or like what you saw, please leave us a like and hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you join the family. You become a Ruby, the Break Room Arcade. Thanks for watching. We owe you guys a breakdown podcast, by the way. We're 2 weeks late. But yeah, time is short these days.
Life is busy.
So we're gonna get Logan. You don't work Monday, right? We're planning that. I don't work
Monday.
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm off Monday. My weekend is Monday and Tuesday.
So look forward to that. Probably Monday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. We're gonna have a lot to talk about because we're pretty behind on everything we've been up to. With all of that in mind, guys, thanks for watching every week. We love having you, and we love having these conversations, and we love Nintendo, and we love you, Reggie. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Brandon Miracle, joined by Logan Welliver. Don't break your backs, breaking the games, but for now, break time's over.
And get better sleep.
Agreed.